Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the Dragon Age 8 Twitch channel for Villain Appreciation Hour. It's been an exciting and amazing day, and we're going to continue it here on Dragon Age Day. I am very excited to have with me two great YouTube contributors and DA fandom folks. I have with me Cole from The Kingdom.
Hello.
And Dawn of Crimson Wolf.
Hey.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. So, really, the first thing that we're kind of forced into in Dragon Age, when you load up that first game, Origins, you're kind of put in a situation regarding a villain right off the bat, and that is the Darkspawn. So, there's a kind of a lot and also not a lot to say about the Darkspawn, but what do you guys think? Are they villainous enough? Are they too cliche? What are your thoughts?
I think the Darkspawn were handled very, very well. I think it would have been very easy for them to come off as cliche, just generic monsters. And, I mean, for me, at first they were, but, once you get into the history and the lore behind them, they become a very, intriguing entity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as far as any video game premise is, when you get that generic first villain, you don't think much of them. But as Cole said, the more you get into the lore with the Darkspawn, the deeper you dive into that story in the game, you see there's a lot of thought that goes into each one of them, and especially the backstory behind them is in a mystery that where do they come from. So to me, they're not very generic, but they are interesting the more you dive into the world.
And there certainly are a lot of varieties, including those Genlock emissaries, which just don't make much sense to me because dwarves can't use magic.
It makes sense to me because they're not using Fade magic, they're using Blight magic. Yeah. So it makes sense to me.
As much as any Fade magic makes any sense.
Yeah, sure.
So is it the Blight magic that makes them so violent, you think? Is that sort of the accepted lore of these not quite mindless villains?
I think just the nature of the Blight is to destroy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was in the lore that they said they tried talking to Darkspawn and they have no interest in talking or being civil. They just want to destroy. That's their whole goal, is to destroy the surface.
So, Don, I gotta ask, what's your favorite Darkspawn?
It hands down has to be the Shriek. They are the most twisted versions of a Darkspawn I think you ever can have. Given one of the most fantasy-driven things is an elf, and every time you picture an elf, you think of these light creatures who are very nice and one with nature. Then you have the Darkspawn version of that, which is a complete 180 twisted version of that. It's a great way to introduce Darkspawn by themselves to show here's an elf and here's that flip side of it, something so dark and gnarly that you can't imagine it.
What about you, Cole? What's your favorite Darkspawn?
For me, it's Shrieks too, for a lot of the same reasons Don said. But for me, I like how they thrive in the shadows even more so than the other Darkspawn. And, they can just they seem like they come out of nowhere, which, as opposed to most other Darkspawn, which are just, brute force, these guys are more like hidden assassins. And I love the idea of their shriek being so petrifying. You read more about that in the Codex. You don't really get it in the gameplay.
I wish we could get it in the gameplay.
Something that
we got that with dragons in Inquisition. I would love a shriek that paralyzes you.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Well, for me, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm sort of on Team Ogre. I love the ogres. They're big and scary, and they just seem so classic Darkspawn to me. Right up there with the archdemons. Yeah, I guess I do. They certainly give me the shrieks are a close second, but really the ogres are just so frightening. In Dragon Age 2, for example, when you feel the ground shake, and I'm playing with a console controller when I first played
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Age 2, just feeling that vibration, like, oh, something big and scary is coming.
What's your favorite version of the ogre? Because they changed the design throughout the 3 games.
They did, yeah. I don't know. They kind of honestly blur together for me a little bit. I think
I
that
think
Origins I like best. 2, they were different, and yeah, in the Descent, I don't know. They don't really stand out to me so much. The Origins ogre really stands out the most to me.
mm,
So there's been a lot of development of the Darkspawn over the franchise, and of course, there's the archdemons don't ever really seem to change. But the Darkspawn did have a big shift and a big change in their in the way they were presented in Origins, versus later they did kind of get a change big time in 2 and in Inquisition. What did you guys think of that shift in design?
I think some are better, others are questionable.
Yeah, pretty hit or miss depending on the Darkspawn overall. 2, their design seem like, especially their armor seems more crafted rather than like in Origins. There seems more like rusted. Like they just kind of picked them up off the battlefield and kind of found whatever they could to kind of go about and plunder and kill.
I don't know. I kind of got that manufactured feel from the Origins armor as well.
Yeah,
It was like more complete, you know?
I guess I feel that the in 2 there certainly seemed to be less. I can't quite describe it, but there seemed to be a little bit less of a organic horror to them in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition versus Origins. And maybe it's because of the intro in Origins just did a phenomenal job of building up these great beasts. In Dragon Age 2, it just feels a little bit more like manufactured horror. I think manufactured is kind of the right word here versus the more organic feel of the original Darkspawn in Origins.
Yeah, because in 2 they don't have the same impact like in Origins. Because when you first see them like at Ostagar in Origins, you get this beautiful cutscene with them. It feels like a war, and it feels like very horror, a very dark horror feel in this world. So you actually feel their impact. But in 2, you kind of lose that with the redesign a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree, but I have to say I might be in the minority here. The rest of you can let me know, but I like the Genlock redesign. I think it makes them stand out more than just being basically shorter Herlocks.
That's true. Almost a little too disturbing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the Genlocks. Yeah, they certainly. I mean, they're still hideous and they're still horrifying. Don? What did you think of the redesign of the Shrieks, though, in comparison?
The Shrieks, they're fine, but they're not. I don't care for the redesign as much because I like the Origin design, like I said, because they look like a complete different side of what you expect an elf to be. Mm-hmm. In the 2 redesign, you can see it in images. Like they look like you can barely tell it was supposed to be an elf. In the Origin one, you can tell they're an elf because you see small details like from the ears, the linkiness of them. But in the redesign, you kind of lose that feel of they kind of twisted a once beautiful kind of creature, and now it's just this demented thing.
Yeah, they certainly have a very different, I guess, physique. Definitely a different. I think that the sort of twistedness of those Origin Shrieks was really impactful. But just let me tell you, those Darkspawn archers, no matter what game, are terrible and awful, and I hate them. So, kind of keeping on the topic of Shrieks, what about the Shriek emissaries that we were introduced to in later games?
Don, you want to go first?
Yeah, they are, from the design, it is scary for the most part, but it just doesn't, I don't know why, they don't hit home for me. I don't know why. It's just something about them they don't connect with me. It is something about the design or anything like that. It's just I don't care for them very much, and it's weird.
You know, for me, I like the redesign of the emissaries. They're more what I would imagine a Darkspawn mage to be like, as opposed to, just a normal Darkspawn. You got these guys that are very. I mean, you see in these pictures, they got the real long fingers. They seem more distorted's not the right word, but I don't know. It makes them more distinct, you know? And
Maybe
you
it's
can
the
tell
lack
they're,
of feet.
yeah.
Well, I did want to throw this image in because this was actually the concept art for an emissary, which I think is really awesome and cool, and I wish we could have fought something like this.
I like the more sleek look of the emissaries we actually get. This does, because of, the head shape, it looks like what would be a Canary emissary.
Yeah, definitely rings like a Pride Demon possessed the Darkspawn, which would be amazing to see.
Oh,
Yeah,
Exist.
I
yes.
like that idea a lot.
That sounds what would happen to a demon if they possessed a darkspawn?
Something like this.
Or
This
maybe
would
it's
be
just explode.
terrifying.
Yes, it would be. And no, I do want to put in. I miss that those sort of possessed creatures don't explode anymore. So what's next other than a possessed darkspawn, which I think would be awesome.
I want to see more of like creatures from I want to see more of like Corypheus and like the Architect, more of those who brought the blight into the world. That is more of what I want to see of and get more of how did he actually come into the world rather than what the Chantry somewhat teaches us. And it has some truth in it, but I want to know the whole truth actually.
There are some of the Magister Sidereal that are unaccounted for.
I agree with that. I would like to see. I've brought this up in a few of my videos, but I'd like to see if one of the sidereal magisters was female, and she became one of the first brood mothers. I think she would be absolutely horrifying to meet, but also fascinating. And I guess the other thing that I really want to see is just more play into their horror, the horror of the Darkspawn, because to me they are horror villains, and I'd like to see them explore that more instead of just, "Rah, I'll kill you." Rah.
Yeah. And they are very nicely described, I guess, that prolonged horrific element in the books. But moving on from there, so we mentioned demons and abominations already. And before we really dive into that topic, I just want to give a shout out to Able Gamers Charity, the organization that Dragon Age Day is supporting today. You can click the link below to donate to the cause. We're really excited for all the donations that we have received. Thank you so much to everybody who has supported the campaign so far. We have some really great rewards still available. And just, click the link, check it out, check out the schedule for other streamers today. And so bringing it back then to the villains, there is the other umbrella of villains, which I, in a way, think of as far more terrifying. On various scales, the demons. The demons of the Fade, the twisted spirits. What are some of your initial opinions? Don, what was the first demon you encountered when you played Dragon Age Origins?
The first thing I encountered had to be the Rage Demon that Wind kind of takes care of. And it's a very, pretty much a slow burn while you're going through the circle, but being that the Rage Demon was the first one you encounter, then you encounter the Desire Demon and then Sloth. So just having encountered them through pretty much possession and then abominations from the Mage Tower is my first interaction with them, which was mediocre, but at the same time I think the Desire Demon hit more home because she was controlling the mind of one of the Templars. And that was more freaky than anything, probably.
What about you, Cole?
If you want to get technical with it, the first demon I encountered was possessed Connor, which to me that got my attention, and I don't know, really kind of pulled me into the idea of what demons are capable of. And like you said, they are very scary because they can affect you internally, as opposed to the Darkspawn, which are just full on destroy. demons can seep into your mind in a way that the Darkspawn can't. And going from, I went right from Redcliffe to the Circle, and so, I went through and encountered all all types of demons in there. And then the Sloth Demon, yeah, really just kind of irked me. I wanted to get out of the Fade as fast as possible.
Did you use like cheat the fade?
No, I couldn't. Of course, now I have it
Good
down
man.
to a system. I have it down to a system now, but at the time, yeah, no. I thought demons are very creative, the way they're applied in Dragon Age.
I just gotta say, my first time going through this was as a circle mage, and I gotta say, I'm pretty sick of the different types of sloth that we have met throughout the game. Pick a form, please.
What would you think is, what would a sloth demon look like?
Lazy? I don't know. Me on a bad day? I don't know.
A slug?
Slug? I was thinking like a sloth or something.
Actual sloth. That would be funny.
That would be
Maybe
adorable.
something adorable and creepy descending from the branches of the Fade.
Yeah, I like that.
Pride demons never change their shape, though. You can always recognize them.
Yeah, no, to me, the first thing that stands out about them to me is the way their arms, on their arms, their shoulder, not their elbow, keeps going. But they did change one thing about the Pride demons, and that was that in Inquisition they are suddenly lightning elementals, which, I mean, that's cool, but it was kind of weird that they were suddenly lightning elementals.
I think it was a good choice. It gave them a range attack which you didn't expect. So it was, when you first fought them in the first fight in Inquisition, it was unexpected and it drew me back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of speaking of demons through the franchise, there was a bit of a change in adding demons to the roster. Don, what is your favorite addition?
My favorite and most terrifying one has to be the fear demons, stuff like Nightmare, for instance, because these things literally have my Nightmare verbally in there. Like, they send spiders at you. Why do they keep sending spiders at me in these games? They know that's my fear. I'm convinced they do.
BioWare knows. They are certainly terrifying. The Nightmare Demon and yeah, the Fear Demons I think were a very nice addition as well.
I like the Fear Demons, but my favorite new addition has to be the Despair Demons. I think they have a really they have a really clever design. I like the fact that they're cold based, which mirrors, the coldness of despair. And they're deformed, but you can't really see that unless you get up close. You see their gigantic feet, which are a little distracting, but besides that, you got they have the like tattered cloak and the hood pulled up, and if you look under the hood, it's just this gigantic deformed face. I love the Despair Demons.
Those ice attacks are brutal as well.
Oh no, I hate fighting them, don't get me wrong.
Walking through here, this first thing you hit was ice in the first rift.
Oh my god.
Yeah, on the way to the farm, to Dennett's farm, just a great big cup of nope. That's a Despair Demon. Nope.
Guess the truffle is going to stay lost until I level up some more.
Yep. So what about the Terror Demons? What did you guys think of those additions?
They are really good design. Like, I like the idea of them being very slender and kind of otherworldly, because as a demon you shouldn't be able to really picture them. And this kind of mirrors that, to where you don't know what to expect from them, and they have this very alien-like quality about them. So I do like the design of them.
I agree, and they definitely play into their name, Terror, because they have the same scream that the Banshees have in Mass Effect 3.
Mm-hmm.
Noticed that immediately and then couldn't unhear it.
That's frightening.
But yeah, no, it gets under my skin.
And terror is one of those things. It's different from fear. Terror is sort of being seized in that moment by something.
I think
Fear
terror
is, I think, more suspenseful, perhaps.
I think it's the other way around. I think, or I guess fear kind of encompasses terror and horror, but terror, I think, is the fear of something about to happen. Like if you're walking through, like a creepy mansion or something.
I think
But horror is the fear of something that is happening, like you're being attacked by a monster.
yeah, I kind of agree with that because terror is like that. It is for the most part what you said is that immediate thing or in that moment. But fear, like for me, like with the fear demons, it's my phobia is spiders. That's why that's terrifying to me. That's why those reign so hard, especially because fear is like an overall lasting thing that can kind of pretty much make you freeze wherever it is and just come at you.
So we don't like despair, we don't like terror, and we don't like fear. So what's
I don't like
next?
spiders.
Yes, we don't like. I should have put spiders in here, but I
Spiders
didn't
are
want to
demons.
freak out too much. I didn't want to send you from the room.
I would have left the chat then. I would have been gone.
Yeah, I was a little worried about that fear demon close up to begin with. That's very spider-like.
So what's next for demons?
Wow, what is next? We're going to Tevinter. There's a lot of spirits in Tevinter.
So I think we'll see a lot of demons as servants, a lot of like bound spirits that are just kind of doing things for the magisters.
I think I would probably want to somewhat talk more to demons and also see. Actually, it would be real interesting to see more of them actually how they came from like being possessed or turning from spirits into demons. We see that a little bit with I think Sodus's friend that turns into a demon in one of the quests for him.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing more of that lore and everything behind them would be really interesting, and encounter them a lot more would be weird.
I have a question. Do we know that all demons were once spirits, or do some demons just kind of quote grow as they are?
That's a really good question. I mean, they are the manifestation of these emotions. So which came
Right.
first, happiness or sadness?
Right.
I
So
mean-
I think some are perverted spirits, others are just naturally demons.
Yeah, very possibly.
One thing I want to add, BioWare has talked a little bit about. One of the demons they wanted to include were demons of remorse, and I think there is a lot of potential there. What it reminds me of is in Fable 2, there's this enemy you can fight called a Banshee, and throughout a fight with it, it'll whisper things to you. Like if you had killed someone, for example, it'll whisper things like "You enjoyed it."
Oh, that's so creepy.
And I'd like to see BioWare implement something similar with remorse demons. Maybe pull up choices that you've actually made prior to encountering it.
Ooh,
Trying to make you feel guilty for it. I like that. I like that
Oh.
idea a lot.
remorse and
Remorse
regret.
demon. I would like to see Sodus as remorse demon. That would be really good to see.
Yeah, he has a lot of regrets. So, I'd like to see. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we're kind of leading in the direction of more spirit interaction. First, with Wynn, it was very subtle as an abomination of a nameless spirit. I don't think canonically we have a name for that spirit. And then Anders, we all know what happened to Anders and Justice. That didn't really bode very well. And then we have Cole. Cole is a spirit who was afraid of becoming a demon, who is a spirit, sort of depending on your choices, becomes real or stays a spirit. Do you think that we're gonna have maybe an option for a demon companion?
That would be cool. I think Cole brought up in one of his videos too, which was very good. He actually mentioned having I think it was more of a spirit as a companion. That would be really cool. Not more so like Cole was an Inquisition, but actually an actual spirit kind of tagging along with you. That would be really interesting to get their point of view of people around you and what they're feeling.
I would like a. I mean, for me personally, I want a romanceable hope spirit, but I do think it would be really interesting to have a malevolent demon as a companion too. That could provide some real I guess, controversy in the party, and at a very, very unique viewpoint.
I think that would certainly. Ooh, if you could choose between one or the other. Oh,
Ooh, between the angel, that's like having an angel and a demon on your shoulder.
kind of, yeah.
I'm always choosing the hope spirit. Come on.
And we
I don't,
always choose to save the mages and ally with the mages. So
I don't know. I might choose a demon on this. On this one.
yeah. Everybody has a darkest timeline. Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we move on to our next group, I just got to give a nice big shout out to the Dragon Age Day team and volunteers and all those who have donated and supported the Able Gamers charity and all those who are streaming today. We have a ton of events going on around the clock. Check out the schedule. Click the link below to support the cause for Able Gamers. And thank you all so much for being here, for watching. Thank you, Cole, and thank you, Dawn. So for this, I set aside the largest block of time for this next group of villains because they really demand it, and that's character villains. As much as the Darkspawn and demons play an important role in character development and either your villainous deeds as a player or, as villains themselves, very present, the character villains really seal the deal, I feel, in the immersion of the story in Dragon Age. Dun, what is your favorite villain?
It hands down has to be Loghain. And mainly because even though you have the Archdemon, Loghain's pretty much your main rival, your big bad in the majority of the story. You're trying to get to him, kill him, just so you can bring peace to Thedas and stop the Civil War. But he's my favorite villain, not just because of the game, but also because once you read The Stolen Throne, you get much more of his backstory, you dive more into his character. And when a game company and writers can make you kind of care for a villain and sympathize with him and understand his feelings, that makes him an overall better character and a better villain to fight in the end.
Cole, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I absolutely agree with what Don said about including more backstory, making you connect more with the villain. But it's really hard for me to say that any one villain is my favorite.
That's,
I guess.
yeah.
I mean, I guess Loghain kind of has the biggest impact on me, but I'm not sure I could call him my favorite. I don't think that's fair to the other villains.
So, do either of you have a playthrough where you let him live?
Not a complete playthrough. My very first one.
Do I sense some remorse, Cole?
Absolutely, yes. My very first playthrough, I let him live because I guess I didn't fully grasp how bad what he did was.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
everything that he did, and I'm firmly under the belief that all life is precious. I wanted to give him the chance to redeem himself, but on subsequent playthroughs, I can't bring myself to let him be a warden.
No.
I don't know, because that's all seemed like an ultimate punishment for him as well. So I had one playthrough where he became a warden. I didn't see that completely through, but that seems kind of fitting to make him get punished for trying to kill a whole lot of people, especially the wardens.
For me, I absolutely loathe Loghain. I'm a big believer in sympathy and understanding, and I've also read The Stolen Throne, and my heart broke a little bit reading about Loghain, the young man who seems to just never, leading up to the time when he met Merrick, just never really was able to get his footing under him as a person. But I really draw so many lines with Loghain because kids in cages is not okay, and that's what he allowed when Tevinter moved into to Denerim alienage. That's not okay. But moving on to Dragon Age 2, Cole, what are your opinions on Meredith?
Meredith, I think, for me, is the perfect example of a villain you love to hate, because they build her up so much in the background as this, ruthless, cold, the this faceless knight commander. And then you see her for the first time. She has that awesome entrance, and you kind of want to like her a little bit just for a minute there. But then you're crowned champion, and then you immediately see her kind of going off the deep end. And they really build up that. I mean, hate is a strong word, but
No,
I think
hate's right.
they.
I'll say it.
It's probably
we can
right.
hate Meredith.
Hate is right.
But you love to hate her. It's such an enjoyable experience to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I do hate Meredith mainly because even though like you can get more of a backstory later on, but I hate her because she's so like prejudiced against mages. And I get why, but I hate that overall. Like she demeans an entire, people for what they are. And it's something that it's really unforgivable. But the route she takes with it, the extreme she goes to, it's completely ridiculous. And also, and the entire thing makes you pretty much turn against all of the Templars because of this one character.
She does condition them to be more like her, and I think all that's what makes her a great villain. It makes you want to fight her. It makes you want to just stop the madness.
Yeah, the madness that really took over in a lot of ways. A lot of ways, and she kind of got her comeuppance in the end, I think, as a villain. But let's jump around in Dragon Age 2 a little bit. Let's talk about the real bad guy, the real boss, the Arishok. Question for you both. Is the Arishok a villain?
No.
No, you don't think so? Tell me why.
Yeah.
So at the very end of his arc, he turns to villain, but throughout the story, he's more of like a rival for the most part. Like, he shows you, not at the beginning, but the longer you get to know him, the more you encounter him, the more you interact with the Qunari and talk to him, he becomes more of a friendly rival. He comes to respect you as Hawk. And you have this kind of kinship to where Hawk takes things in his own hands. And you can respect the Arishok for the most part as you fight him, as you get to know him, but yeah, down the line when he gets to like taking over Kirkwall and cutting off the Viscount's head, at that point, yeah, he becomes more of a villain. But throughout the story, I would probably more label him more of a rival.
I mean, yeah, beheading is a very villainous thing to do, absolutely. Cole, what are your thoughts on the Arishok and his, slow build to villainousness?
Villainy?
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
There you go.
I'm kind of in the same boat. He starts off as an adversary, but at the end he takes the turn into full villain. I think they did a really good job building up his relationship and rivalry with Hawk. You really get a sense that he's coming to respect you personally.
Also, you want his respect for some reason every time.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just like you want him to approve.
I don't. I get it, but I don't. I turn and walk away from him every time. Like, whatever, talking giant. Whatever. No, I do agree that there is an adversarial nature to him. And in that final confrontation in the Viscount's Keep, or former Viscount's Keep, you have this amazing interaction. And then, depending on your choices, is interrupted by Isabella. And I almost just want to put my hand on her face and say, stop talking. Stop talking. I'm busy here. The grown-ups are busy. Because that is so well... Aside from that first line, but we have guests. I think that's such a terrible throwaway line. But the nature of that confrontation, building to that, is so powerful and really well executed. And of course then everybody does the run away from the Arishok dance with your dog biting his butt. I mean, tell me you haven't fought him that way, and you will get a round of applause and a dozen roses, because that's what happens to me every time.
Everyone fights that way. You have to run away. You look at him, you want to run.
Have you guys ever refused his challenge? for one-on-one?
No.
Or I guess,
Uh,
have you ever not fought him one-on-one?
yeah, on one occasion I did a dark playthrough when I gave Isabella up just to see how that would work out.
I did too.
I felt so horrible. I'm like, it was bad because I also romanced Isabella that same playthrough. So, yeah,
Oh,
actually, I
you're
probably
the
say my
real villain. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
but
I did refuse his the duel once it was made clear that we could duel. I basically just said no. That's ridiculous. And I fought him with all of his friends. That was a fight. But kind of looking a little bit more broad, just a little bit more at the Arashog here, as kind of a villain, the Kunari kind of stick out to me a bit here because it seems like a lot of his actions were built on the lessons of the Kyun. He is a Kyun hardliner. And the Kyun is kind of being set. The Kunari are certainly being set up as villains, as really, Tevinter's bad, but the Kunari are the name, that you don't say. Do you think that some of those decisions were more out of conditioning or just completely losing it?
Uh, I'd say it's about half and half, honestly. I'd say his attack on Kirkwall was him completely losing it, but I'd say things like staying in Kirkwall for as long as he did, kind of pushing the Viscount away, not even trying to negotiate. I'd say that was more of the Kyun.
yeah, I do agree. Maybe because he was there for several years looking for the tomb that they had lost for decades before that held by Tevinter. On top of that, you're in a state where you can't pretty much go home, and that has to really mess with you for a number of years. And you just sitting there watching as these people of Kirkwall kind of go about what you don't believe in. Like they believe in order, and you see Kirkwall who was pretty much on the brink of chaos at all times, especially with Hawk there. So it makes sense why he kind of resorted to what he did. I'm not saying that I condone it, but
no.
given how the Kunari are and how they believe in order and want to stop the end of all chaos, it makes sense why he went to the extreme of we're going to take over the city and bring order to it, as well as the tomb that they have lost now.
That really makes a lot of sense. I just gotta say though, he would have been in and out in 6 days if Iron Bull had been with him.
The Arashok is a very black and white character. And I like that about him. I think that makes him for me, that adds to the appeal of him. And I think he's a good face of the Kyun as a whole and what we can kind of expect from them, particularly their military.
Absolutely. Yeah, black and white certainly really describes him very well in his thought. But let's move back to Origins now, to something that is much more gray. You have two villains before you. Which do you choose?
You know what? I want to say something real fast. It concerns both the Kunari and the dwarves. People talk about how this is something that's always, I don't know, kind of bit in my head. People talk about how unethical the Kyun is, but I'd say the dwarves might be worse.
Oh,
because
very likely, yes.
The Kyun at least tries to put you, along your natural talents. They try to put you in that place that, you can feel comfortable. The dwarves, you're born into a place and they're like, all right, you're going to do this and you're going to like it.
That is true.
Very true, very true. And what do you know? The people at the top seem to like it a little bit more than the people at the bottom.
No.
So, but really, who before you do you choose? You have to pick one.
Going off of what Cole said, that's why I chose Baden, because he's more for progression and actually letting people kind of branch out. He also, even though he's pretty much an A1, like a-hole, he completely deserves to die, but at the same time, his views of how to better dwarven society is what made me choose him. He wants to connect more with the service. He wants to bring the casters back into the fold. He wants to progress Dwarven society, even though like his methods of doing so are horrible. Especially how he gets to the throne, like killing his family and everything. Supposedly, we don't exactly prove
come
that.
Depends
We know
on your
he did it.
backstory. He is either a regicidal maniac or not.
Supposedly.
Cole, what are your
That was-
thoughts?
Despite what I said, I still side with Harrowmont because while I agree with Balin's, well, a lot of his new policies, I can't bring myself to put him on the throne knowing what he did, knowing how he had one brother murdered and then framed the other for it, or just manipulated the other into killing the other. It's just I I I cannot bring myself to allow him to take the throne.
I mean, Harriman has he promises things that he doesn't have, and
I think
has.
Never mind, it's a
That's
typical
more to-
politician.
That's more a result of incompetence as opposed to Balin's malice.
That okay, see that doesn't. I don't want him. I don't want him on the throne because he doesn't seem like he wants to better dwarf. He wants to keep them in the dark and shelter them off from the rest of the world. Which, if at the time we thought Ozamar was the last dwarven society, and sheltering them off, that doesn't help them at all. It doesn't like push them forward and like advance in anything. They just stay kind of constant. That's why I didn't particularly like Harrowmont. It was either progress with this, douche who killed his family, or stay where you are with this maybe wholesome guy.
This reminds me of a quote from Grand Theft Auto 4. It's a line I really like where one of the characters asks, "Is it better to have a talented snake or a stoical lion that's going to be cut down in his prime?" And to me, that perfectly describes Balin and Harrowmont. Balin being the talented snake, of course, who you can't really trust, but he's talented. And then Harrowmont, he's good, but he's gonna get cut down. He's not gonna last.
That's really well put. I like that a lot. So, yeah, I have no opinion. I'm staying
No
out of
choice.
this one. Yeah, I wish that I could be the queen of Orzammar, to be honest. One of my first, like maybe my third playthrough was as a dwarven noble romancing Alistair. I really wanted to make him king, and I could be queen, and that would be that. But no, I have to choose. But speaking of other villains that you can choose, I do like the option to choose a villain. So what do you two think of Calpurnia and Samson? Don, you go first.
I hands down go with Calpurnia as far as the better of the two, mainly because there's more future for her. She has more content to come with her given the outcomes of Inquisition. Plus, like her little involvement in like the comics and Mage Killer and everything makes me want to learn more about her.
Anticlimactic tool.
They are kind of, yes.
But Calpurnia, you can reason with and kind of convince her that, hey, you don't need to do this. You can go back to Deventer, build up your city or home, and you can reason with her, which is also really good. That's a good character thing for her in that game, as opposed to Samson, who that's just his end. And I don't want that. I want more.
Cole, what about you?
I think Calpurnia is the better character overall, and I think she has a lot more potential in the future, like Don said. But for me, I think Samson is the better villain, because specifically, I guess, relating to Cullen, he is very much a warped mirror of Cullen, because they both, Samson and Cullen, had the opportunity to become just as bad or just as good as the other. And so I like seeing that mirror, seeing Samson. I don't know. I think Samson's the better nemesis. He's the one I like fighting more.
That is very interesting too. What I don't like though about fighting Samson is that even when you disable his armor, he for some reason gets huge.
Yeah.
Why? I definitely see what you're saying. Calpurnia is a really interesting character, and I definitely have a bit of appreciation of her because she's a weird-toothed freckled gal, and I'm a weird-toothed freckled gal. Although she has more of a gap. I used to have a gap. Now I have more Miranda teeth. Anyway, she also, I really do hope, like you said, Don, she's reasonable. When she realizes that Corypheus is betraying her, she may have a future in the franchise. Whereas I guess Samson is very believable as a Corypheus lackey. Because what does he have going for him? In Mage Killer, we get a sense of Calpurnia's dedication to her own cause. We don't really know what happens to her when you do side with the mages. Whereas with Samson, he is broken and addicted to lyrium and wants to sort of restore the Templars. I think in a lot of ways he's in it for his own power and his own self. But I haven't read his short story. I haven't read Calpurnia's either. But I think he is more believable as a villain at Corypheus' side.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, Samson, he is a very character that you can kind of get to know in. Like, he has a good character by himself if you read into it. He is a good mirror for Cutting. But the reason I chose Calpurnia as well is because, let's say, like, you do have a reason where she goes back to the Venture. There is a future where you're able to reason with her in Inquisition. She could potentially still be a future villain for you as you fight to Venture in the near future, to where now you have to actually face her and she's a lot more formidable because you kind of let her go and you may regret that choice.
Is that going to come back to bite us in the butt? Well, moving on. So, Cole, I have a question for you. Is Morgan a villain?
I don't believe she's a villain. I think she's a horrible person. But yeah, that's an exaggeration.
No, it's not.
Look, although she works for noble goals, most villains do. She manipulates people. She lies to them. She tricks them into doing what she wants. She's very selfish. But I don't think she's a villain. I think she's neutral, if anything. Maybe.
John, what do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so I love Morgan. Like, hands down, I love her. From that first instant when you see her in Kakari Wilds, I was like, if there's romance, that's the first person I'm romancing. That's hands down what's going to happen. But I would not call her a villain. She is very chaotic, I guess, neutral in this stance. She wants to preserve knowledge. She wants to preserve, like, the old ways, which obviously from who she was raised up by, like, with Flemeth and everything, you understand why she views the world like this, especially being cut off from pretty much all the people and then kind of teaching, like, being taught, like, to kind of look out for yourself and don't give in. So Morgan is that very stoic character, but I love her because she's kind of cold-hearted and you can kind of grow to understand her.
She's such a sneaky witch thief. Sneaky witch thief. I love to hate her.
But I will say, you do? I will say I really love her character progression. The way she grows just by experiencing the friendship of the Warden, conditionally, I guess.
She is very well written. Yes.
Yes, she's probably one of the best written characters in Dragon Age, in my opinion.
You know who's not? Vaughn. This guy isn't even worth the slides that I made up for him. But I want to poke some fun at the devs here and the writers for a moment. Vaughn is the worst. Because he's not even really a proper villain. He's just written so terrible. Vaughn is what you get when you have your player character needs to go from point A to point B. And Vaughn's more just what happens to your character rather than being a fleshed out character. He's just too extreme. I don't know if you guys have opinions, but if you do, feel free.
I want to say, I think his I mean, you're right. He's not exactly the most riveting character. He's like a cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
But I get why he's like that. Not from a character perspective, but from a writing perspective. They needed to show you the way elves perceived humans and the way humans perceived elves.
They needed that introduction to that world of how things are perceived, how things are made in society. So he was a necessary douche.
Yeah, they had to push it to the extreme.
Durable person. Yeah,
they didn't have a lot of time, so
no. But I mean, he doesn't even really have a proper redemption arc in a way. You meet him again. You can meet him again in the dungeons of Denerim, and he's just as much of a jerk. At least with somebody else who comes to mind, Jowen. Who is more of a potential villain and does villainous things, he has a bit more thought put into him, really, in comparison. I do kind of like that we get sort of some reoccurring villainous characters, antagonists, such as Jowen and Vaughn. Jowen, I just think, was done so much better in comparison.
He was a foolish person who just kind of stumbled into bad things every time.
You wouldn't call him a full-blown villain?
I would not. I think he just got into bad situations without thinking most of the time.
Yeah, I never even considered him a villain.
I don't think most people consider him at all.
Yeah, he never... I look at him and I never thought villain. Mm-hmm. He's just, he's just kind of a fool sometimes.
Yeah, you look at him and say, "You poor dumb fool."
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fools, let's go into our last villain of this discussion hour. Solus. Who's excited for Solus to be our villain? Me.
Don, you want to go first?
So Solus has to be probably the best idea of a villain. He's a former companion turned villain at the end, which I'm gonna be honest, at the end of Inquisition and with Trespasser, I definitely didn't see it coming. I kind of didn't expect it because how could I? He never got anything from the guy except he seemed like he was kind, he knew his things, and that was about it.
Yeah, and that is the kind of the story of Fen'Harel. He comes as this, wise passerby offering help with his hidden agenda.
The dread wolf comes in humble guises and offers wisdom that slowly turns to poison. I mean, considering our arm melted and we're responsible for half the bad decisions in Southern Thedas, yeah, I think that's an accurate description.
He has a few banters with Varric that you notice on the second playthrough. Yeah. He talks about how everyone in Hardened Hightown is a spy or a traitor, and he asks, "Are there many tricksters in dwarven literature?" And he puts the emphasis on trickster, and Varric talks about how his favorite villains are the ones right beside you all along, willing to get their hands dirty. But
that's clever writing and everything. Like they give you hints of what he is, and at the end, like, why did I not see this coming?
Right.
Oh, that was such a fantastic rug pull at the end, though. They nailed it.
They set up Trespasser really nicely, and with me just going, wait, what is happening here? Why is he with Flemeth?
Yeah, that was an incredible scene.
There are those little things that do kind of tell you in his dialogue with your player character or with Iron Bull's curiosity about him. Most people don't even notice you. There are these subtle hints, and subtlety is his thing, and I think that we are going to have a lot more suspense from him as a villain versus brute force. What do you guys think that a villainous Solus will look like in the next game?
I think he is a great chance for BioWare to employ a different kind of villain. Because, you know, the villains we've gotten up until this point with, you know, the Archdemon, Loghain, Meredith, the Arashok, Corypheus, they're all, you know, kind of in your face. But like you said, Solus is very subtle. And I think he's going to offer an intellectual challenge, which is something we haven't gotten much of in Dragon Age yet. As I think a lot of the story is going to be about outthinking him, and that's what I'm really excited for.
Don, what about you?
Terrifyingly cunning, but unexpectedly powerful. That's the best way I could summarize what he might be.
That is perfect. I love that.
I frankly have just never really been in an experience where a video game could string me along and show me this beautiful relationship and then dump me and then tell me it was all a pack of lies. So there's a lot to unpack with Solus in a lot of ways, and I am looking forward to that sort of subtle, slow reveal of more of his character, more of his deeds, more of his plans. It's going to be really amazing, I think, and I'm really looking forward to him as a villain.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, that really, I mean, there are still so many more. There are still so many more villains to talk about in a lot of ways. We barely touched on the Magister Sidereal, which I do hope will play an element in the next game for sure. But gosh, yeah, Zathrian and How and so many others. You know, do you have opinion on How? Maybe we'll have to have a part 2.
Yeah, talk about How.
Rendon How. Okay. Well, thank you guys both so much for being here. Cole, where can people find you?
You can find me at my YouTube channel. It's called The Kingdom. I do not use Twitter because I do not like Twitter at all.
I just lost all my followers, dude. No, just kidding.
So YouTube is the main place to find me.
And Don, how about you?
You can find me on YouTube at Crimson Wolf, and you can find me on Twitter on Crimson_Wolf13.
Awesome.
Those are 2 main places.
And I am also on Twitter and Instagram, Foods of Thedas. I have a Foods of Thedas blog. Many of the people probably watching this know me as one of the organizers for Dragon Age Day. So thank you all so much for celebrating Dragon Age Day. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Cole. It has been an immense pleasure talking villainous deeds, villainy of all kinds and all shades in Dragon Age. It's really something that ties the whole game together. Character development is wonderful, and that is best propelled by quality antagonists. Quality villains. So thank you both for exploring so many of these great ideas and characters, some not so great. Vaughn. And so I thank you all once again for joining us. There is more to come, more to go on here at Dragon Age Day on the Twitch channel. And of course, check in on Twitter and social media. Share your love, share your thoughts, and please check out that link below on Tiltify to donate to Able Gamers. Able Gamers is a fantastic charity that works to promote disability awareness in video game fandom and culture, as well as work with game companies to make games more accessible, which is great because video games like Dragon Age are for everyone. Thank you all again. I really appreciate it. Bye.